The place to be is right here with me. It is Random Topic Thursdays, the hottest live stream on YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope. What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Gavin Richard. Welcome to Gavin Richard Presents. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you are blessed and doing safe. Tonight, we have several topics, including we're going to talk about Biden's plan to get tough on gun crime. Also, after criticism from Nicki Minaj and others in the woke industry, Michael B. Jordan plans to change his run brand name from Juve. Sounds like Juvie the Great. I'll talk about that in a minute. Also, Rodney O'Neal, I talked about this past Tuesday, found guilty in double homicide of girlfriend and daughter. He will not be acting as his own attorney, according to reports. We'll get started on that in a minute. Plus this and more, and we're going to also talk about get Shawn's take on Minnesota AG. Tomorrow, of course, is the Derrick Chauvin sentencing. And it's no coincidence that it is the weekend. I will be joined by the author extraordinaire, author of 75 books, including The Man Crisis, and author of John Haynes, The Man with Nothing to Lose, as well as his latest two books. He has Revenge of the Cyber Goddess and John Haynes, Taking Care of Business. He is also working on The Woman Crisis, which is companion book to The Man Crisis. Everyone, welcome Shawn James to the show. Shawn, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, brother. All this and more, ladies and gentlemen, on Gavin Richard Presents. But first, of course, I got to plug this song in. It's time to get on up, ladies and gentlemen. Let us do it.
Girl, come on. Gotta dance to the beat, cause on the dance floor is where we live. Show me what you got. Gotta feel the groove. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on. Right now the party's wasted. There's nothing much to do. But once the groove gets started, tell me, what do you have to lose? Just look into my eyes, girl, as we glide across the room. And what to my surprise now, the beat takes hold of you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really moving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, start to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up. Tell the DJ play the whispers. Rock steady in the mood. Put on earth, wind, and fire. Tonight we're gonna groove. Show me how you do the four corners. Electric slide or two. Hit the bus stop or do the buddy hop, baby. It's really up to you. Now if you're feeling like I'm feeling, so come on baby, let's start dealing. Time to get this party started. Ain't no time for the broken hearted. When the rhythm takes hold of you, there's only one thing left to do. Cause the beat is really grooving. Time to get your body moving. Gotta get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, start to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up. Now 2020 hasn't been the best year of all times. We've been dealing with death, the pain. Get on up and move your body. Cause when the beat is really grooving, start to feel your body moving. Gotta get on up and shake something. Feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up, baby. Yeah, gotta get on up. Baby, come on, baby, gotta get on up. Baby, feel the groove, get on the floor. Get on up.
Yeah, feel the groove, get on the floor, ladies and gentlemen. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Random Topic Thursdays, the hottest live stream on YouTube. I'm Gavin Richard. Welcome to Gavin Richard Presents. And of course, my guest with me tonight is Shawn James. Shout out to Shawn. Shawn is the author of Revenge of the Cyber Goddess and John Haynes Taking Care of Business, just to name a few. And he's working on the woman crisis right now. Shawn, how you doing, my friend?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing fine. If you want to come in, you can. All right, that was Papa Richard, guys. He likes to pop in when I get started every now and then, because he's bored. How's everyone doing tonight, man? How you doing?
I'm good.
Okay. Let me ask you something. What's the status on the woman crisis? How soon do you plan to have?
I'm near the quarter mark at this point. I'm getting things done as related to the introduction of the thesis. I'm laying down the arguments. So that part I'm working on right now, and I'm hoping to eventually have it in the first draft by the end of the year, because this is a tough one. This is one, like Eternal Night, I want to make sure the arguments are solid so that I don't have people coming back at me, because with the man crisis, it was irrefutable. It was people said it was one of the best books they've ever read, and why 71% of black women are single was so solid. Most women have not been able to challenge any of the talking points presented there. So I want to do the same thing for the woman crisis.
Most definitely. All right, very well. I look forward to seeing that book when it comes out, and I have some books that will be ready as well. So where do we begin, Shawn? Tonight we're going to talk about, I guess, there's a host of things we can go in on. I guess we'll get started with our Commander-in-Chief, Joe Biden, who plans to get tough on gun violence. On yesterday, Biden targeted law-breaking gun dealers in an anti-crime plan. Of course, this is the president who is proudly said that his name has been on every crime bill because he is the one that created it. But Joe Biden announced earlier today, on Wednesday, new efforts to stem a rising national tide of violent crime, declaring the federal government is, quote, taking on the bad actors doing bad things to our communities. But questions persist about how effective the efforts can be and what could be a turbulent summer. Crime rates, this is according to AP, have risen after plummeting during the initial months of the coronavirus pandemic, creating economic hardship and anxiety. These merchants of death are breaking the law for profit. Biden referring to, I believe he's referring to gun dealers. If you willingly sell a gun to someone who's prohibited, my message to you is this: we'll find you and we'll seek your license to sell guns. We'll make sure that you can't sell death and mayhem on our streets. But there are also tricky politics at play, and Biden's plan shows how few options the Democratic president has on the issue. So he's mainly trying to target gun dealers who break federal law and establish strike forces in cities to help stop weapons trafficking. He also said he would seek more money for the agency that tracks the nation's guns. Let's actually play a video from the president as we speak. This is coming from yesterday. This is on C-SPAN. Now, C-SPAN is not tied, I believe, to any major network. C-SPAN is mostly independent, although I'll be honest with you, I think they've even fallen off a little bit. Most news media today is saying, but 153 likes to 1,200 plus dislikes.
And the Second Amendment from the day it was passed limited the type of people who could own a gun, what type of weapon you could own.
It
You
did
couldn't
not.
buy a cannon. Those who say the blood of patriots, and all this stuff about how we're going to have to move against the government. Well, the tree of liberty is not water with the blood of patriots. What's happened is that there never been, if you want to think you need to have weapons to take on the government, you need F-15s and maybe some nuclear weapons. The point is that there's always been the ability to rationally limit the type of weapon that can be owned and who can own it. The last time we had data on this issue of who was purchasing guns was more than 20 years ago. 5% of gun dealers, turns out, in the study we did, showed that 90% of illegal guns were found at the crime scenes sold by 5% of gun dealers. 5% sold 90% of the guns found at crime scenes. And these merchants of death are breaking the law for profit. They're selling guns that are killing innocent people. It's wrong, it's unacceptable. As the Attorney General said, we're going to crack down on those gun dealers and the violent criminals they knowingly arm. In April, I announced that the Justice Department is going to be issuing an annual report on gun trafficking so we can update that data. Today, the department is announcing, as it just did, the major crackdown on stem the flow of guns used to commit violent crimes. It's zero tolerance for gun dealers who willfully violate key existing laws and regulations. I repeat, zero tolerance. If you willfully sell a gun to someone who's prohibited from possessing it, if you willfully fail to run a background check, if you willfully falsify a record, if you willfully fail to cooperate with the tracing request or inspections, my message to you is this: we'll find you and we will seek your license to sell guns. We'll make sure you can't sell death and mayhem on our streets. It's an outrage. It has to end, and we'll end it, period. Second.
Okay. So that was the president. Let me say this to what he said about the Second Amendment, and that has been decided by the court. That is not accurate when he stated that you cannot have it regulated the type of firearms you're supposed to have. Every adult male over the age of 18 was required to be armed and be armed with weapons and artillery the same as the state in defense of the state. The state is not the government. The state is the people. Just like you say, if you are in criminal court, and they will say the people versus O.J. Simpson, or the people of versus Michael Jackson, or the people versus Robert Blake. It's the people. That's what the state of California is. Shawn.
Yes.
Think of President Biden's statement.
President Biden's statement is inaccurate, and I have to say he's deflecting from the real cause of most of this crime. Now, most of this crime was starting even before the pandemic in places like New York and Chicago and many other left-leaning cities, and it was all a result of a policy many state leaders implemented called bail reform. Now, this bail reform was supposed to make it where your so-called nonviolent offenders wouldn't receive any cash bail when they were brought for arraignment. And as a result of this bail reform, this is the reason why crime rates wound up spiking, and this happened before the pandemic went on. Now, this whole situation with bail reform was exacerbated with the lockdowns and those Democratic governors deciding to open up their jails and the Democratic mayor's decisions to open up local jails in an effort to combat COVID-19. And as a result, this is what led to the already increasing crime to escalate to these epic levels. And this was also compounded by policies in places like California, where prosecutors declined to go out here and prosecute people for crimes like shoplifting items in places for merchandise that was under $900. And this led to a rise in shoplifting and petty theft. And there was also a decision here in New York the prosecutor decided not to prosecute cases of prostitution. So many of these small crimes, they were not being prosecuted by police. And because the police and the prosecutors were not going after these types of criminals, what happened was criminals saw that there were no boundaries. And as a result, these criminals started to escalate their violent behavior. But your Joe Biden, he wants to turn it into a gun issue, which it is not. And he doesn't want to deal with the gun. He doesn't want to deal with the fact that his governors that were a part of his party created a lot of this crime with their policies. And it was their policies that wound up destroying years of, I even say decades, of decreases in crime. And many police officers, they were disgusted by what they saw with this bail reform, prosecutors not going after prostitutes, going after shoplifters, going after people urinating and defecating on the street. And their programs will enable drug addicts by giving them needles. It was all of these policies that were created by Democrats that wound up creating this spike in crime. And this is why a lot of police officers, after the George Floyd riots, which was another explosive event, wound up putting in their retirement papers because of these Democrat policies that created this crime problem. Now, they wanted to say it's the pandemic, but no, these policies were all connected to the Democratic Party. And now you have your Joe Biden coming out talking about how he wants to go out here and fight crime. But no, your party created all of the crime with their policies. And nobody wants to come out and call them on to the carpet for creating these policies and creating this whole crime wave as a result of their attempts to give Pookie a chance, because they said, oh, Pookies and Ray Rays, they need a chance to have their life. They need to have their day in court. And you're suppressing their rights. But Joe Biden wants to turn it into a gun issue. No, it's an issue that your party created. And it's something that I believe will be the downfall of the Democrats in 2022.
Yeah, I think there's without question, there will be a bloodbath in 2022 with the Republican Party. They have many seats that'll be coming up. And I think it's a big reflection on the direction of the way this country is going in just the last several months when you look at the radical push, that Biden has been placing, with the transgender movement, with the LGBTQ, with illegal immigrants. The president of the United States has made illegal immigration, Shawn, legal.
Yeah, and he's opened up the floodgates for crime.
Think about that. They were talking about that on the radio today. It's illegal in the law, but you're granting them amnesty automatically. And the federal law, the United States Code still says illegal immigration is against the law. If you're not going through the qualifications that you're supposed to, it's breaking the law. So, and earlier today, somebody shared this with me. He was whispering. Did you see this? Look how he's talking to the press. Talking about, I don't know what day this was. I think this was yesterday. But look at this.
I got them $1.9 trillion relief so far. They're going to be getting checks in the mail that are consequential. I wrote the bill on the environment. Pay them more. This is an employees bargaining chip now. What's happening? I got them 1 point.
Somebody wrote last week, this is from townhall.com, last week Joe Biden snapped at the press. This week he's whispering at them. And
yes, thank you.
Will you travel to Florida, sir? Can we ask you about Florida, what you've learned? And
Oh, yes, I apologize. Yes, thank you.
yeah, Kamala Harris had to remind
Will you travel to Florida, sir? Can we ask you about Florida, what you've learned? And
what is going on in Florida? You know?
There's a building that collapsed, a condominium building that collapsed, and
Yeah.
a lot of people were trapped. I believe 99 people are missing. One person.
99 feared dead. This is in Miami.
Yeah, somewhere around there. But I saw it on the news, and it was horrifying. And it was because the building was built on some marshy land, and they started doing some.
You saw the building fall?
I saw a video of the building falling, and it was sad to see that.
That's the build. So this is it here. I don't know if they got the. Oh, yeah, that's it there. Jeez. It almost looked like a controlled demolition.
Those buildings are designed to fall like that, but the whole thing is that the building was built on some marshy land, and the whole thing is it was sinking for years. And then somebody decided to start constructing another building, and that caused cracks in the ground underneath this building and caused it to collapse.
Right.
That's what they're speculating.
I just said it almost looked like. I didn't say it was, but
Yeah.
There's two of them that fell.
No, it's a one big building. It's one big complex.
So the middle part falls.
Yeah.
And then this one fell. And then I think the other one partially fell, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Jesus. My God. This is in Surfside, Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my thoughts and prayers are with them. Yeah. So yeah, we were talking about Biden's gun control plan, and honestly, that's not what I've been critical of it, because realistically, there's no law on earth that's going to stop a murder.
No.
Realistically, there's no law. You can pass whatever legislation you want. Somebody's going to find a way to kill someone.
Yeah. The whole thing is that this isn't going to work because it doesn't stop crime. It's not legal gun owners doing these things unless they're these beta male mass shooters. But in the most of these random violence is due to a lot of people letting their own policy of letting out a lot of these felons to go back on the street. I mean, Rudy Giuliani had managed to clean up New York City, but it was Bill de Blasio and Andrew Cuomo's policies of bail reform and other policies that they participated in that led to the crime spiking back up, because they let the criminals back out of jail and then let them back out on the street before the COVID-19 pandemic, and then they let them out full to combat COVID, and that's what led to the city just falling into this chaos that it's in right now. I mean, that's happening all over the country because of these Democrat policies, but it's just a matter of time before Republicans get a hold of these policies and let people know, look, it was these policies that are the reason for the crime. It is not the guns. It is not gun control laws that can stop this. You have to go back to organized policing in order to effectively deal with these types of crime waves, because the whole thing is you cannot give people a pass for these small crimes, because it leads to them having more confidence to go out here and commit bigger crimes.
Yeah. Well, without a doubt, man. You're absolutely right on that. I mean, most of these crimes that are committed, you talk about mass shooters, I've seen mostly, like you said, beta males, or these like what we saw in Columbine, and what's the other one? West Virginia Tech, all these other ones. It involves some type of beta male that gets involved in it. It's not law-abiding citizens.
No, it's not.
Abiding citizens, 95% of gun owners are law-abiding citizens that obey the law.
Yeah.
So if you pass these laws, it's strengthening gun control, that promote strict gun control laws, is going to hurt us more.
Yeah, because legal gun owners really do not go out here and commit crimes. It's hardcore criminals who buy their guns illegally, and a gun control law doesn't stop a guy who buys his gun illegally.
Right. Well, let's go and move on to the next topic, Shawn. I'd like to talk about this to get your take. So this happened this past week. You did a video on it. Ronnie O'Neal III, out in Tampa, Florida, was convicted of double homicide, attempted murder of his girlfriend and the daughter who he had with his girlfriend, as well as the attempted murder of their son, Ronnie O'Neal IV, as well as several other charges, including arson, abuse of a minor, and so forth. I want to show everybody the video because he is will not be sentenced to life in prison. He's actually going into a new phase, what they call the sentencing phase, because he is eligible in Florida for receiving the death penalty. This goes out to, let's see. news company is this? All right, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get the name right. All right, so this is coming out of Tampa Bay, Florida with the news. This is Hillsborough County News Channel 8.
All counts against him, including 2 counts of first-degree murder. And now he's facing the death penalty.
Tonight, an experienced trial lawyer not involved in this case is analyzing O'Neill's performance as he acted as his own attorney. 8 on your side's Jeff Patterson joining us now live in Tampa with more on that. So I'm sure a lot of people had opinions on how he did. What does this gentleman say?
Everyone from the actor and rapper Ice-T to everyone commenting on the a lot of people have opinions about this case. In his angry closing argument, experienced trial lawyer Anthony Rickman says Ronnie O'Neil made mistake after mistake after mistake.
By the time it's all said and done, you will see who is the mass murderer.
This is the lasting impression people across the nation will have of convicted killer Ronnie O'Neil, from his screaming opening statement to his angry facial expressions to his hair.
It's a huge problem.
Trial lawyer Anthony Rickman says it was a big mistake for O'Neil to act this way.
You have the person who's accused of a heinous murder, of 2 heinous murders, screaming at the jury, showing them that rage, that ire that the government says that he acted with when he killed 2 innocent people.
Rickman says juries constantly evaluate defendants in every case. And in O'Neill's case, the jury had a lot to see.
This whole entire case has been tampered with and fabricated.
When you look at how he presented himself throughout this case, pacing the courtroom, his body language, his gestures, his rage, his anger, the mood swings, he painted a picture of what he probably looked like when he committed these murders.
Rickman says the evidence in the case was clear, but O'Neill's actions in court only helped prove the state's case against him.
His whole demeanor throughout that case really hurt him.
Anthony
No
Rickman
shit,
says
Sherlock.
Ronnie O'Neil also hurt his chances of appeal in many ways. For instance, he will not be able to argue in the future that he did not have an effective lawyer because he acted as his own counsel during this trial. Rickman says that O'Neil also hurt his chances of appeal in other ways, and we'll have more on that coming up at 6. Live in Tampa, Jeff Patterson, 8 on your side.
Well, forget even that. You know, the main thing that he did too, Shawn, and you talked about this, he actually admitted, and I talked about it in the video I showed everyone, he actually admitted to killing her. He admitted to killing her in the closing arguments. The evidence was overwhelming from the beginning. The son testified. The son nearly died, obviously, because his father not only tried to kill him, but actually had him place the shotgun in his hand so he could kill his mama. Tried to get him to do that. And the neighbors also testified. The police testified. And his demeanor, the whole trial, it didn't give a vibe, but it was that of a straight psychopath. Or I shouldn't say psychopath, excuse me, sociopath. You have no sympathy or empathy for what you did. You shout out loud to the jury, like as you saw. He was also cursing within his opening and closing arguments. He had to be reeled in by the judge multiple times. Let me say this to everybody. That saying, if you ever heard this, a man who has a lawyer, a man who has himself as his own lawyer, has a fool for a client. If they could actually put a picture in a definition book, in a Webster dictionary book of that, or an encyclopedia rather, because that's a catchphrase, he would be it.
Yeah. When I looked at this case, it took me back to one in the 1990s where the mass shooter, Colin Ferguson, after going on the Long Island Railroad, he had shot multiple people on this Long Island Railroad train. And when he went to trial, he decided to go out here and defend himself. And the end result of Colin Ferguson was he wound up getting convicted and he wound up getting life in prison. And like your Ronnie O'Neil III, he decided to get very emotional and very angry during the trial. And this practically confirmed everybody's suspicions regarding him. Now, your Ronnie O'Neil III, like I said in my video, it's like he was a fool for a client, because here he was making the prosecutor's case and proving their points beyond a reasonable doubt. And he wasn't really presenting an argument to try to cement some sort of reasonable doubt to say that he didn't do it. Instead, he went out here and convicted himself. He basically was a fool for a client, and he basically thought, oh, I'm going to try to outsmart the system, but he couldn't outsmart the system, because the more he talked, the more he incriminated himself. And when I look at your Ronnie O'Neal, I mean, he basically confesses to the murder of his girlfriend in the later on the trial, and then he puts his own son on the stand and further incriminates himself, because as he's asking his son the question of what happened, the son is pointing a finger at him. So this whole case was a complete disaster. I mean, he could have probably, if he had a good counsel, he could have gotten off with not guilty by reason of insanity, but he blew all of his chances because he wanted to go out here and make himself his own client, make himself his own attorney. And as his own attorney, he just proved to the world the old adage, when somebody represents themselves, they have a fool for a client. And he basically acted a fool throughout these whole court proceedings. And that's why I made the video talking about when Pookie is his own client, he makes a fool out of himself, because this was really embarrassing to watch. And he should have just went out here and got himself some counsel, because if he had some counsel, he might have been able to avoid this death penalty, and he might have been able to possibly just get out, be able to do something. But without counsel, he just set himself on a fast track to a death penalty, because the crime he did was so heinous that there's no getting out from under what he did to himself.
Right. No, I mean, and look, you admit to doing it, your behavior.
So that the jury can hear what you're saying.
Yes, his behavior, his appearance. And let me say this, because I get people that were mad, they get mad at me when I said this once about how you show up to court dressed with gold chains, or you could have tennis shoes on. It is important, whether you want to admit it or not, that you have to be dressed appropriate for court. Just like if you were appearing in church, you won't want to wear booty shorts before you receive Holy Communion or anything like that. Perception is often greater than reality. So you dress the part whenever you go to court. Even when I'm not working, I try not to wear, I wear jeans and stuff when I go to court if I'm off or something like that, or sometimes I may wear slacks if it's casual, but appearances is everything. And he came there with, I'm just going to say, he came out there looking like, look at this look just like a minstrel show.
Yeah, that's what it was. And I thought I was watching, when I was looking at those clips, I thought I was watching a sketch from In Living Color. I mean, this was like bad, dark comedy. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. And you know what? Like Buck, I know it's wrong. A lot of people don't like it, but like buckwheat, it's just that's what it is. And you know what? He doesn't deserve me to preserve anything, to not talk bad about him, because he murdered 2 innocent people.
He murdered a disabled girl, and he murdered his baby mama. If this wasn't a horrifying situation, it would be comedy. Because he's just twisted, and
he's a clown. Yeah, he's twisted. They'd have done better. I can't promote violence or anything like that, but just hypothetically speaking, any man that would have done that to my daughter and my granddaughter or anybody related to me, I would probably be the one locked up. Yeah. Well, they're going to get a hold of him. I would have saved the taxpayers a lot of money, because this was a waste of time. And if he had a lawyer, he would have represented him. I think would have gotten him out of the death penalty.
That I beat Kenyatta Banner to death. He talked about Mr. Khalil Brown, my neighbor, who stayed across the street. But if Mr. Khalil Brown was a help to them proving me guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, they would have called Mr. Khalil Brown. But I called Mr. Khalil Brown to be a witness for me.
Another thing is his body language. He's looking at the audience instead of looking at the jury.
That night.
Yeah.
I asked him to tell the jury exactly what he saw that night.
They could have saved
And
the
you
court
have
a
to
lot
ask
of money.
yourself why that is.
But you know, they had to go through it because of appeal stuff,
He's playing
due
a
process.
fraudulent damn recording of me beating Kenyatta Barron 15 damn times when that did not happen. And like I told you earlier,
But you just did it 10?
Yep.
It didn't matter, man.
you will know the truth, whether in this trial or the next one.
This is terrible.
Don King Jr.
If you think I'm here to play around with y'all, God damn it, I'm not.
All right, Mr. O'Neill, please stop using swearing language. It's not appropriate in a closing argument.
Now he played a recording that was sped up. Why didn't you play the regular recording that people can understand what the call was saying?
Objection to the defendant asking me questions, Your Honor.
I'm going to sustain.
I'm talking to
Okay.
people.
Mr. O'Neill, listen, please just keep in mind, this is not personal towards the prosecutors. Please keep your comments directed towards the evidence and the law. Thank you.
I know for a fact Kenyatta Barron recording from her phone did not record calls sped up like that.
I'm going to object now. He's talking about facts, not in evidence of what he knows.
Again, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as you were instructed, the closing arguments are just that. They're not the evidence or the instruction on the law. It's just what the parties believe the evidence shows or does not show. All right? Thank you.
You heard Mr. Khalil Brown. You've been hearing me for 2 weeks now, telling you that they committed criminal acts against me with the 911 calls and that fraudulent video that they just showed y'all. Now, I'm going to prove it to you. You heard Khalil Brown. He said that he was actually sure that I only hit Kenyatta Barron 3 times. You heard. I called him to tell you that. I ain't running from nothing. They didn't call Khalil Brown to tell you that. I did. You have to ask yourself why that is. Because I want you to know the actual facts. I did kill Kenyatta Barron.
Oh, God.
But I want you to tell it like it is if you're going to tell it.
Right there. It shouldn't have taken that jury 5 hours to deliberate.
No, it shouldn't have
It
taken
is
up.
open court. That should have been the end, but due process.
Yeah. And he basically didn't understand the whole concept of due process. And he basically convicted himself in that courtroom. So he basically dug his own grave. And that's what the courts will allow you to do if you don't understand how they work. He went into the court based on his ego and his feelings, thinking he was going to go in here and try to run a game on these people in the judicial system. And the court system runs on facts. It runs on evidence. And he basically thought he could do this, and he just destroyed himself in court. And that was just sad to watch, because he was a fool for a client. He basically made that old adage come true.
Yeah, that was disgusting. All right. I don't really. That's a good one, Lamiko. Kermit, I disagree with you. He's not a psycho. Psycho means somebody crazy.
No, he was a sociopath, and he was just
Sociopath.
he knew
Right.
what he was aware of. He had no regard for anyone, and
No remorse.
no remorse at all. And this was not helping his case because him not showing any sort of remorse or even showing any sort of sympathy for what he had done, or to just say, "Look, I'm sorry for what I did." It dug a grave for himself and made himself look callous, made him look cold, and it made it look like he had malice aforethought. So he's going to probably get the death penalty if this case goes into that phase, because the way he behaved in court was not going to help him in any way, shape, or form.
No. Why in the hell does that fool dress like Galvatron from Transformers? Oh, that's on the laugh.
Well, he did look like Galvatron. But this is what happens when Pookie represents himself in court. He's been watching too much LA Law or one of these other shows, these court shows, and he was playing the drama for that, but it just wasn't working.
He can't argue an appeal because
of
ineffective assistance of counsel, because he was his counsel.
Yeah.
The judge will always ask you and tell you, if you want to represent yourself, that is your right, but you cannot bring this up on appeal. You cannot use an argument of ineffective assistance of counsel. You understand these rights. You understand what you're doing. It's things of that nature. They will, before a person pleads guilty, they even ask what they do, what's called boycottism, when they ask a host of questions, whether they speak English, do they know where they are, what their date of birth is, what's their highest level of education. I don't know if any education could have helped him, but this is a straight sociopath.
Yep.
And it's not even funny. What he did was awful. God awful. I mean, he murdered his daughter. He murdered his wife. He tried to murder his son. And his daughter, who he hacked with a fucking ex, was a child with special needs. I mean, my goodness. Just disgusting. But they're moving to the death penalty phase this week. I can only imagine, just looking at the judge, and she looked like she was fed up and done with him. I imagine she will likely sentence him to death. Or the jury rather would sentence him to death, because the jury is the one that decides that. But I think that there's going to be an argument. There's going to be no question about it. So, yeah. All right. Let's try and get into some light-hearted news. I don't know if you want to call it. Well, most of the stuff here, man, is not lighthearted. We're going to get to this in a second. So after criticism from Nicki Minaj and others, Michael B. Jordan pledges to change his rum brand name from Juve. Sounds like Juvie. Juvie the Great. You understand? Juve. Now, Juve is a carnival festival, if I'm not mistaken, that is to celebrate the end of slavery. Well, it's an emancipation in the Caribbean islands. It's used to people celebrating. It's a big festival that goes on. And you had someone like Nicki Minaj who who criticized Michael B. Jordan openly about his brand of liquor, naming it Juve. So it's going to be called Juve Liquor, and it shares its name with the carnival while celebrating Caribbean culture, and it has ties to 19th century slavery. But the Trinidadian rapper Nicki Minaj urged Jordan to rethink its issue. Now, this is what she had to say. She said she did not believe Jordan would intentionally do anything he thought Caribbean people would be offended by. Now, Nicki Minaj is from Trinidad. And what's so interesting, just like Cardi B, she's Dominican. you know, it ain't heavy these days. You're right, Harlem Brown. But Nicki Minaj, and I found it hypocritical of her to throw her 2 cents in, because let's not forget what happened a few years back. Nicki Minaj actually had, and I'll talk about her in a second, but let's get to what she actually said. She says here, I'm sure MBJ didn't intentionally do anything he thought Caribbean people would find offensive, but now that you are aware, change the name and continue to flourish and prosper. She said, the ignorance is real. History lesson, y'all. Juve, which can be written and pronounced as Juve or Juve, is a broken down version of the French jour ouvert, the morning time referred to as day open. Jour ouvert, Juve, also known as Juve, originated in Trinidad with the festivities of Canboulay, which was a time when sugarcane fields caught on fire and slaves were still forced to harvest the. Let me show you. What's up, Danielle? So you all can read, see what I'm looking at. Forced to harvest the remaining crops before complete destruction. That event was reenacted and male slaves were mocked by their masters. However, after emancipation, the slaves mocked the masters, mocking them. The festival begins way before the crack of dawn and proceeds a little past sunup. It is the event that truly starts the main Monday and Tuesday Carnival Street Parade events in Trinidad. It was later adopted by other Caribbean islands as they experienced emancipation throughout different periods in history. It is not about the name, it is what it represents pertaining to enslavement and freedom. This is from Zaria Ray. And Nicki Minaj posted this. Now, I want to share with you all something here too, because I had to deal with some trolls because I came at Miss Minaj because I thought she was a goddamn hypocrite. Now, I had one of her little trolls hit me up, telling, and I'll share that with you all in a second, as soon as we can get this damn. It's funny, whenever I want to get something to work and pull up, it doesn't do it immediately. So now I got to keep going back and forth like I'm not on my game. But we talk about this cultural appropriation. Let's not forget that back in 2014, Nicki Minaj had some artwork that disrespected an ancestor of ours. This is Malcolm's daughter, Elisha Shabazz, and she stated, and she had some artwork which depicted Brother Malcolm as a negative, in a negative way. This was to promote her single, Nicki Minaj looking ass nigga, excuse me. Now, how would she like it if we all went back in her past and brought this stuff up? Or better yet, I have to see, and this is a problem I think I have that a lot of people have with some of the island, people who don't like it when we say foundational Black Americans. Like it's only, why you gotta be foundationally Black? We all part of the diaspora, But a lot of these, and yeah, there may be a diaspora. Yes, of course, there was a diaspora of Africans in the Caribbeans, in the South Americas, and in North America, but in the islands. But they come over here, a lot of them come over here with an attitude. A lot of them come over here with an attitude. They have an issue with Black men. They have an issue with Black people. African immigrants I've dealt with and seen that talk down on Black people. And when we talk about cultural appropriation, Tariq Nasheed, shout out to Tariq. Tariq had this to say about Michael B. Jordan because he came to his aid. And look at this picture. He says Nicki Minaj criticized the foundational Black American Michael B. Jordan of culturally appropriating Trinidadian culture because of the name of his Juve rum line, which is actually a French word. It is. But Nicki appropriated the entire persona of a foundational Black American, Lil Kim. You see that there. Let's also not forget, you have a bunch of, Shawn, you got a bunch of you have a bunch of products that are owned by whites that in some way have a name from Caribbean culture. If we keep it on drinks, this man Mason Wells has a lemonade division called Calypso, a taste of the islands. Shout out to Jason Reed for this.
Actually seen Calypso in the stores. Wow.
Yeah. And this was the troll I was dealing with. Oh, we're gonna blast you tonight. Now, when I put up this article about Malcolm X, look what she wrote. This was literally 5 years ago. Get a life. I told her to kick rocks. If you have nothing intelligent to offer in the conversation, get lost. She says, try me. Though if I did try, I'll probably be number 94. But then again, she said, I learned to not speak on topics that isn't my culture, so I'm sorry. You about to say something, Shawn? I'm sorry.
No, I'm going to wait for you to finish, and then I will drop my commentary.
But that's the type of shit we deal with.
Yeah.
But let me just show, I thought I showed the article, but this is the article about Malcolm X. This was the artwork that she had so everybody could look.
And it just shows her hypocrisy because she's telling us to value a culture she doesn't even support. And there's a lot of hypocrisy with your Nicki Minaj. I mean, she goes out here and promotes the most negative and racist image of Black women, but she wants Michael B. Jordan to change the name of a liquor because it offends her as related to her so-called culture. But she made all of her money going out here promoting and elevating and a degrading image of Black women and Black womanhood. But she wants to get us to think that she's so about her Caribbean culture. She's just really completely full of crap. And if your Michael B. Jordan had some backbone and some stones, he would call her on it and say, well, what about this looking a N-word that you put out a couple of years ago? And what about the fact that you go out here and present the worst image of Black womanhood, and you go out here and you make this, you made your whole career degrading the American Black woman's image. And I would also, like you pointed out about Calypso, where is all of that smoke for that white man? I notice you're real silent when that white man goes out here and names a beverage after your Caribbean culture that you're so dedicated to. You're not getting in that white man's face and talking about he needs to change the name of his business. No, you only want to get in the face of a Black man, and you only want to get in the face of a Black man because you want to get publicity for yourself. You want to get attention for yourself. And that's the big problem I see here is Michael B. Jordan just did not have the backbone or the stones to tell your Nicki Minaj to F off, because that's what I would do if she came at me. I would just tell her to F off and get the F out my face.
Well, in fairness, it wasn't just her, but it was others, yeah.
I would just tell them all to F off because I'm like, why don't you get in that white man's face? Because I know you're not going to get in that white man's face because you're too much of a coward to challenge that white man. And the only reason why you're doing this is because you don't want to see a Black man in business. You don't like seeing a Black man have power. You don't see a Black man making power moves. You don't want to see a Black man making moves where he's going to generate wealth. And you don't like to see that Black man in a position where he's going to economically enrich himself. So this is the issue that Nicki Minaj has. She has an issue with a Black man in a position of economic power, a man who is making a money move, and she does not like the idea of seeing a Black man making these kind of moves. She only wants to see white men make those kind of moves because, again, where is the smoke for all of those white business owners? Where is the heat for all of those white business owners? I mean, these businesses have been out for years making lots of money. I mean, here in New York, a bottle of Calypso costs $2, which is more than an Arizona iced tea or even a Pepsi Cola. But we don't hear from Nicki Minaj protesting that beverage. No, we hear her only going after the black man. And again, it just shows how these foreign-born blacks are a crab in a barrel towards foundational black Americans, and how they are basically agents of white supremacy looking to bootlick and brown nose to get crumbs from the master's table.
Right, most definitely. And I look at this. I look at this. I look at what she, what they're trying to do, what they're trying to push. It's complete bullshit.
Yeah.
Everybody wants something. Everybody wants something to get upset about, and and as much as we have been as Black Americans, we're used to seeing, number one, other companies make money off of our culture. Shit, she's made money off of our culture.
Yeah.
You're upset about Michael taking a word from your culture. All the rapping shit that you did, you made a living off of hip hop, the blackest thing created. You were discovered by a foundational Black American and Lil Wayne. You made million. You, Drake, who are not, Drake is from Canada. All of these Negroes, I don't even call them, shouldn't even call them Negroes, but these people, and let me tell you what I have a problem with. I have a problem with fake outrage. You guys will come into our communities, you want to be with us and hang like, act like us, and y'all get upset, but you don't want to be us. You don't want you don't want to be surrounded by us. You think little of us. But you'll take our monies. You'll have no problem appropriating Black culture. You had no problem putting Malcolm X on your artwork for your album. The fuck out of here.
Yeah, I get tired of these foreign-born blacks. They sit here and they take advantage.
Yeah,
they take advantage of us.
She doesn't even act like that. You know damn well she don't care about Trinidadian culture.
No.
And that's for everybody. That's not just her. That's all the people complain about Michael B. Jordan. And Michael, he doesn't want to deal with the backlash. Everybody right now, cancel culture. I said this last night on Brother Bernard's show. Bernard is watching. I said F cancel culture. Because cancel culture is a big problem in this country. It's going to do us in. You can go in anybody's past because everybody's not perfect, Shawn.
I know.
Make mistakes. But everybody, by the way we're judging things, we're playing God, and everybody is getting mad at something somebody says and wants to cancel their entire career. What about Bacardi? Yeah? Hell, Jack Daniels stole from Uncle Nearest. As a Black man that taught Jack Daniels how to distill whiskey.
Yep. But this whole cancel culture is just, I always look at it from the biblical point where Jesus was out here when they brought the adulteress to them. He was without sin, cast the first stone. Because many of the people who want to cancel people, if we looked in their background, we would find stuff that's far worse than what we want to cancel people for. And a lot of what we want to cancel people for is just having an opinion. And sometimes you have to call people out like your Nicki Minaj because they're full of it. And they need to be called out because these people, they want to make it look like they are doing some sort of right thing, but they're really just doing the wrong thing, and they're just looking to take advantage of naive, gullible people who want to get woke points and virtue signal, but they don't want to really look at this woman's background and see that she's the villain in the situation.
Right, most definitely. And I'm just looking at this, man. It's crazy. The stuff that we see going on, personally, Michael, I wish he would have stood up. more, but because we need to stand up to these woke activists, the, these fake activists, I should say, not even woke, they're fake. Because when shit goes down, they're not going to be out there.
Yeah.
Not when things get hot and heavy. You really think any of these people complaining about Michael B. Jordan, some of these people, if things really got bad in this country for Black Americans, you think they would be out there?
Nope. They wouldn't even be around.
You think they would be the soldiers, the ones carrying the guns? Hell no. They'd be hiding in their house, man. You got anything more to say on this, Shawn?
Not really, because all I have to say is these woke activists, these people are just really full of it. They look for causes to go after because they don't have the courage to actually go through anything. They just want to get noticed on social media like Twitter and Facebook, but they're not really about trying to take constructive action. And when the heat's on, like you said, these are the same people who were the first to run away. So when you see these woke activists or these people like Nicki Minaj, all they want to do is get some press. They want a virtue signal. And that's why you have to stand your ground with these people, because they are all flash and no substance.
Right, right. And I mean, look, I'm here in New Orleans. New Orleans is the big carnival city. Mardi Gras. You see all kinds of sights and characters. Mardi Gras is Fat Tuesday. It's the time before Lent where you let loose before you abstain from a bunch of stuff. I've seen it all, man. But I mean, there's countless stuff named after things. By this logic, anybody can go after. But yeah, so you guys tell us what you think. I see some people in the comments have made some people like Harlem Brown, shout out to him, says she only does what her handlers allow. Sleep woke. Frank Nitty asks, wasn't she raised here? Nicki Minaj was from, I thought she was, doesn't she have ties to Japan, if I'm not mistaken?
I think I don't know.
Her father is Japanese. I always thought, yeah, she calls us on her, she calls herself fucking Barbie. Not, this is the same thing with, I mean, look, I could do a host of stuff. There's a host of stuff we could talk about concerning Miss Minaj if we want to make a show out of it. You're pro-black, but you got Chinese, right? You say you're black, but you got Chinese ink on your arm. Onika Tanya Murad Petty. Now, she was born in Trinidad, St. James, Port of Spain. So, okay, so I thought, yeah, she had some ties with Japan, but I could be wrong. All right, I'm wrong. But nevertheless, a fake outrage, man. And copied Little Kim. All right. So Shawn's not talking so much.
Well, I was waiting for you. I was just waiting for you to direct the next question. So,
yeah, of course. All right, so let's go into the next thing. Minnesota AG says case is not about revenge. Now, you guys know I talked about this on Tuesday. For those that don't know, tomorrow they will mark the sentencing phase in the Derrick Chauvin murder case. Derrick Chauvin, of course, was found guilty back in April in Hennepin County for the murder of George Floyd. He was convicted on all counts, including second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and manslaughter charges. He faces a maximum sentence of 40 years in prison. Tomorrow is the sentencing phase. But what was interesting was what your Keith Ellison said in regards to the upcoming trial. Now, I remember that when this aired, this 60 Minutes interview was back on April of 2021. So I think what happened is that they replayed what he said, but it was very interesting to listen because Mr. Ellison, Keith Ellison, who is the AG, this is the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota. So he is not the DA. He has actually more power than the district attorney. He is the chief attorney, prosecuting attorney for the state of Minnesota. Do y'all understand what that means? So the Daily Mail, if I can find it, they posted an article where the AG says, don't go heavy on him. Minnesota AG says judge should not make an example of Derrick Chauvin when he sentences him on Friday because it is not about revenge. Chauvin is 45 years old, and AG was being and AG Ellison was being interviewed on 60 Minutes. This was back in April, which you all saw in that video. I didn't play all of it, but I don't know if I want to play all 13 minutes of it because I don't want to get a copyright claim on me. But
Friday, Derrick Chauvin is scheduled to be sentenced for the murder of George Floyd. The former Minneapolis police officer has been in jail since his conviction in April.
Kelly.
It was shortly after the verdict that we first brought you our interview with the prosecution team, including lead prosecutor, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison.
The story will continue in a moment.
Thousands of women with metastatic breast cancer are living in the moment.
I don't want to play all of it because
eyebrows.
I'll get a Viacom CBS will get a copyright strike. I just don't want to get over it. But he told 60 Minutes on Sunday that despite his feelings of gratitude and satisfaction at seeing Chauvin convicted, he also felt sympathy for the cop. Look, the state never wanted revenge against Derrick Chauvin. We just wanted accountability. The lawyer added that despite the shocking video, which was beamed around the world, he was never certain that Chauvin would be found guilty. I was never convinced we were going to win the case until we heard the verdict of guilty. I remember what happened in the Rodney King case when I was a pretty young lawyer. So Ellison has been practicing law if the Rodney King case was in 1992. So this is over 30 years at least. So this man is not a rookie. He's not a young man by no means. So he knows better. So the point being when I say this is that for an attorney general to make a comment like this before the sentencing and to actually do this on national television before sentencing, before you've had a chance, the judges even had a chance to hear any impact statements that are made from the family. And I'm wondering if the family I hope the family of George Floyd did not co-sign this, or they at least chewed him out for saying this. But when you make a comment like this, Shawn, when you say things like this out loud, it's unprofessional as the AG because as the Attorney General, you always want to go the extra mile. You want to go and represent the state. You go far to the state. You've done your job, but your job is not obviously complete until the sentencing aspect. So your job is not complete, and you're going to have to go in front of the court again.
When you first heard the word
and make
guilty,
these, you thought what? And make your arguments.
Gratitude, humility, followed by a certain sense of, I would say, satisfaction. It's what we were aiming for the whole time.
Now
I spent 16 years as a criminal defense lawyer, so I will admit I felt a little bad for the defendant. I think he deserved to be convicted, but he's a human being.
Somehow, I did not expect to hear from you a note of compassion for Derrick Chauvin.
I'm not in any way wavering from my responsibility, but I hope we never forget that people who are defendants in our criminal justice system, that they're human beings, they're people. I mean, George Floyd was a human being.
Yes, he was.
And
that's
so
who you represent.
I'm not going to ever forget that everybody in this process is a person.
Was there ever a time that you thought you could lose this case?
I was never convinced.
All right. I wasn't trying to, I couldn't stop it or anything like that. Let me just say it's being shared. I do not own the rights to that video. However, it's being shared under fair use of the under the Fair Use Act of 1976, which is for education and news purposes only. That 60 Minutes interview was actually from back in April. So what they did, because the sentencing was coming up, they replayed it because I did a video on this and I remember them talking about it. But still, for whether it was in April or whether it was recently, the fact that he even said this was highly, to me, was unprofessional. And I'm wondering if George Floyd's family has thought about this and what their thoughts are. I hope they don't go in there like Botham Jean's family, like did when Amber Geiger shot Botham Jean, and they had the boy get on the stand and practically wanted the woman not to go to jail. Shawn, what do you think?
Well, when it comes down to this whole argument that your Keith Ellison has made, talking about Derrick Chauvin is a human being, well, I have to say to him, what type of argument is that? Because this human being violated the basic human rights of your George Floyd by putting his knee on his neck for 9 minutes and not allowing him to get any sort of medical care. I mean, if he's a human being, where was his compassion? Where was his love for another human being? I mean, he only expressed malice of forethought for George Floyd, but we have your Keith Ellison hoping to give this man some sort of compassion when he participated in one of the most egregious actions a member of law enforcement could ever do. Now, your law enforcement officers, they're supposed to be held to a higher standard, and they're supposed to protect and serve the people. We didn't see that with Derrick Chauvin, who took that oath to protect and serve the people. No, instead, he decided that he was above the laws that he was supposed to protect, supposed to follow. And your Keith Ellison wants to give him a pass for going out here and violating the public trust he was entrusted with, and going out here and basically showing us that he has no regard for anybody's human rights. And this whole incident, what's really troubling is your Keith Ellison doesn't really understand how this makes the United States look in the international community, because in the international community, they're looking at us as a bunch of hypocrites, because here we are saying that, oh, we're about freedom and justice and liberty, but here we have a prosecutor helping a rogue police officer by making an excuse for him. So we cannot go to people like Russia or China and talk about their violations of human rights when we have a prosecutor here in Minneapolis helping somebody by making an excuse for violating the human rights of George Floyd. So I look at this Keith Ellison, this buck dancing, butter biscuit bootlick, and he really just doesn't understand what's at stake here, because this case is about setting legal precedent to draw a line in the sand, not just for Black people. Black people are the ones who are going to be getting a line in the sand as related to this sentencing, and sending a message, because it's going to send a message that you cannot violate the rights of Black people, but it's also, and if you look at the bigger picture, it's about setting a standard for all Americans by saying that human rights in America are something important, because this could happen to anyone. It's like I said in my own video that about Henry Louis Gates Jr. He thought because he was one of these special Blacks that these white supremacists couldn't touch him. But
Right.
then when he got touched by that police officer, then he wanted to go out here crying. And the same thing could happen to Keith Ellison. And the thing is, the great irony would be he would be creating the precedent for somebody, for some race soldier or some rogue police officer to touch him, because he's giving him a pass with this Derrick Chauvin case. He doesn't see that the pass he gives Derrick Chauvin could eventually wind up leading to him winding up in the exact same situation where he runs into the rogue police officer who goes out here and racially profiles him, and he could wind up with a knee on his neck the same way George Floyd wound up with one on his. But the big problem with your Keith Ellison is the same problem that your Henry Louis Gates had, thinking that they're special Negroes and that they're in a special place, that this can never happen to them. But I hate to break it to them. This could happen to anyone. And the whole reason why we needed to get the maximum sentence given to Derrick Chauvin is to send a message to all of those rogue police officers and race soldiers and beta male suburban commandos and Karens that you will be punished if you cross the line and you violate another American citizen's rights. And if you go out here and violate the public trust, you will be punished to the fullest extent of the law. This is about setting a standard for our country and maintaining a standard that we all should want, and also making a standard that makes America follow the messages that they push in the international community. Because we've been pushing this since World War II about being free, but all we do is show how much of a hypocrite we are, just like we did during World War II with our black soldiers. Our black soldiers were fighting in World War II for the freedom of people in Europe as related to the Axis powers. But in America, Americans were second-class citizens, and your Keith Ellison acted just like a second-class citizen by asking the judge to go easy on Derrick Chauvin. He basically lowered the value of black people by doing this, and he should have thought about that critically and said, look, the reason why I want the maximum is because I want to be on the same level. But clearly, he has some sort of self-hate issues, this buck dancing, butter biscuit eating minstrel. I mean, he was never really confident. He was reluctant to go after this case. He had to be pushed into it. And all we see is a whole bunch of cowardice from him. He has no backbone. He has no stones. And he's thinking that he's going to get favor from these white people out here by trying to get this pass for Derrick Chauvin. But these white supremacists don't care about anyone black. And the whole thing is, if you try to get a pass from them, they eventually are going to come back after you. And when they come back after you, it's never pretty.
Right. And the whole thing about, let me just say this about forgiveness. Forgiveness is important. Forgiveness is for a person who has been wrong, and you forgive because it's basically a way for you to heal. It's part of a healing process, and a healing process takes time. It's not something that you rush. And I certainly, if I wanted to forgive someone, I wouldn't do it in public, like they put a microphone in front of you and they do this. Because even when we see, for instance, these black men who get convicted out in Texas, for instance, on death row, and they get placed on death row, the white families are there the day of the execution watching it take place. They'll say, oh, we'll forgive you, but guess what? They still want to see you get that needle in the arm. They don't stop it from happening.
They forgive, but they do not forget. The whole thing is they don't forget what you did, and they hold you accountable for what you did.
Correct. And repentant, and part of forgiveness too, there also has to be remorse and repentance on the other side. Someone that's sorry for what they did. Something that's sorry for what they, sorry for what you did, sorry for your transgressions, that you make amends. Just like when we go to the sacrament of confession, the priest will give us, we can confess our sins, but the priest will ask us to make amends for what we've done, whether if it's saying more prayer or doing something for the poor, things of that nature. Derrick Chauvin, when I look at his body language, when I've looked at what's happened recently, what I saw during that trial, he has not in any way, shape, or form told me he was sorry for what he did to George Floyd. And honestly, he tried to make George Floyd the bully and he the victim in that whole trial. They blamed this man for his own death. Now, George Floyd, and we can go and talk about the George Floyd Policing Act. No, I don't want. No, wouldn't want to build necessarily named after him. I know they got monuments out of him. I don't consider George Floyd to be a martyr like a Medgar Evers or a Dr. King. No way, shape, or form. Did he deserve to die like that, though? Absolutely not. But that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying is that this man, and we'll find out. I would not be surprised if he gets less than 20 years, because it's already being set up, and the judge kind of agreed when the lawyer made a motion for a mistrial over Maxine Waters' comments, where he thought, you might have something here. So it wouldn't surprise me if he gave him a light sentence. That's just my thoughts. I don't know until we see what happens tomorrow and Saturday.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens, and hopefully he does get a heavy sentence, because what he did, it was just one of those crimes against humanity. I mean, we can't sit here as a people in America and say we are all about equality and civil rights and human rights and let this man roam free, because if we let him roam free, then we cannot go out here and talk to Russia, China, North Korea, Iran. We can't talk to those people in the international community if this guy gets a light sentence. They're going to look at us and say, you gave Derrick Chauvin a pass, so you can't come to us talking about things. This case has major international ramifications, and people don't really see the big picture as related to it. And sadly, Keith Ellison he's so too busy bootlicking for white approval to understand how this case has not only an impact on the national legal precedent, but it has an impact on our whole international image.
Yeah. There are sick people to this day that say Tamir Rice deserved what happened to him. There's not enough room on the planet for the both of us. Well, I remember when Tamir Rice was when he was killed, how they tried to find information. All his parents talked about his dad's domestic violence arrest and all of this nonsense that had nothing to do with the case. So talk about their parents' divorce that had nothing to do with it. They always do that, where they try to blame the victim and they're not below blaming a child for that. Yeah, so it was certainly pathetic. We'll continue to monitor it and see what goes on. I'm sure you'll have something to say about it, Shawn.
Yeah, I probably will be doing a video on the sentencing, depending on what it is. I mean, I'm just hoping he does get a proper punishment, because we have to look at we have to establish a standard here. And this case has major international ramifications. I mean, this case, if it's not handled properly, it's going to make the U.S. look really bad.
Right. Right, most definitely. I think the United States is already looks bad.
I mean, it looks bad, but the whole thing is that we can't sit here and talk about other countries when you don't allow black people to have basic human rights. And here it is, after we've had black men have to deal with this in World War II, and we still have this issue. So you just can't come out here and then complain about, oh, these other countries are so bad, when you need to take the mud out of your own eye before you look at the plank in Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea's eye. So this case, they have to really hold this man accountable. Even though they want to give him a pass, there is no pass to be given, because the crime he's committed is so heinous that it's been caught on camera. There is no way that you have to give him a long sentence to send that message to all of those rogue police officers, race soldiers, Karens, and all these other people who believe they are above the laws of the United States.
Well, the reason I'm saying that, Shawn, let me give you an example. The Philippine president a few years ago, I can't find it. His name is Rodrigo Duterte, I believe is President Rodrigo Duterte. Someone was talking about how he treated his people in the Philippines, and he responded and told them, "God damn you!" This was an American reporter, and stated and reminded him about the black man that was shot in his back, referring to Walter Scott. I don't know if you remember that, but this was in 2016, 2015, around that time when that happened. You remember? I don't know if you've ever seen anything like that or heard about that.
I think I heard about that one. I think he was running from the police, and the guy dropped the taser in front of him.
That was Walter Scott, yeah.
That was another rogue police officer, and he was caught. He was caught fabricating evidence.
Right. Well, this was in 2016 because Barack Obama didn't even want to meet with him, but the president of the Philippines. I'm trying to find a video of it just before we leave because it's hella interesting when you watch the video because this is it here. All right, this is it here, but you guys watch this. Smash up the likes. Yes, I got to say, smash up the likes, like, share, and subscribe, guys. Donate to the Cash App, GavinRichardEsq. I'm sitting here with my man, Shawn James. And Shawn James, of course, go buy his books as well, including Revenge of the Cyber Goddess and John Haynes Taking Care of Business. Those books are available on Amazon.com. Y'all donate to my Cash App. It's my name, Gavin Richard Esquire. This is the video here.
You know, United Nations, if you can say one bad thing about me, I can give you 10. But I tell you, you are an inutile. Because if you are really true to your mandate, you could have stopped all these wars and killing. 500,000 already killed. The goal to call by attention. Nagpapadala ka dyan sa mga NGO. Mga newspaper clippings and critical. All you do is to read editorials. What have you done for the world, Mr. United Nations? At yung tao na expert ninyo, let me, if he comes here, you tell him straight. Mayor Duterte would ask only 5 questions to prove that you're stupid. Only 5 questions. He will just ask you to answer 5 questions. And he will prove to the world that you are a very stupid expert. Maybe we'll just have to decide to separate from the United Nations. Kung ganun kayo kabastos, umalis na kami dyan sa inyo. So take us out of your organization. You have done nothing also. Putang ina mamurahin. When were you here the last time? Forum na. Never. Except to criticize. You done food world? Where's the food? There's the world, but there is no food. World Hunger Organization maybe. When have you done a good deed to my country? They could not control America. They could not control Russia. They could not control the bombings.
Now, Duterte has a lot of issues himself, so I'm not going to sit up here and defend him. But it's interesting. He calls out the hypocrites.
There's not even a judicial finding that these guys were innocent or these guys were really the gangsters. And you just count the bodies there and say that, the United Nations must come in.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought that was the one, but there was one where he talked about he actually went hard on even Barack Obama. I don't know if you ever saw that one. But
no, I haven't seen that one.
He called him a son of a bitch.
Ouch.
I said I would curse at him at this forum. Hold on.
Lots of you have been requesting
of unleashing a national death squad. Where is this going to end? Because some are saying that the social fabric of the Philippines is at risk here.
Good. That's a very good question. It can happen. It happens in America. They're shooting the black left. It shows on TV. What's the difference between America and the Philippines? Nothing. So what is surprising here is surprising to us. We see policemen are shooting a black guy there. How many times had it happened in the past? That's why you have the violent demonstration. So, would it surprise you and me? Almost the same. One case only, 3 cases. So what? It involves the same principle. Say for every 1 black there dead, you have about 5 here. And so, does it make this world more livable because there is less killing? When you shoot a black there dead, what is that? Is that not appalling? When you bomb Syria and Iraq and you kill communities and you kill children and old people and hospital, what is it? And why is it that United States is not doing anything? I do not read anybody in that stupid body complaining about the stench there of that. Look at the iconic boy that was taken out from the rubble. And he was made to sit in the ambulance, and we saw it. So what's the difference? Life of a criminal, or maybe he was really rubbed out. We cannot discount it. But what do you think that Americans did to the black people there? Is that not rubbing out also? I say, well, it was just one community there, one state of America. Well, but you have there about 10. So what's the difference? Are we here for the counting or the basic principles of human rights? Almost the same.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So you just saw how he responded.
Okay, so that was one video, but then here's another one. This is what I was telling you when he called Obama's SOB. All right.
Putang ina, mumurahin kita dyan sa forum na yan. I do not have any master except the Filipino people. Nobody but nobody. You must be respectful. Do not just throw away questions and statements. Putang ina, mumurahin kita dyan sa forum na yan.
I just heard about some of this, but I have seen some of those colorful statements in the past. And so clearly he's a colorful guy. And what I've instructed my team to do is to talk to their Philippine counterparts to find out, is this in fact a time where we can have some constructive, productive conversations? Obviously, the Filipino people are some of our closest friends and allies. And the Philippines is a treaty ally of ours.
He expresses deep regret, deep regard, and affinity for President Obama and for the enduring partnership between our nations.
All right. Yes. So yeah, you think about that. We think about the United States relationship to foreign countries and the impact that it can have if you're just tuning in with regards to what's going to take place at Derrick Chauvin's sentencing, because the world is watching what goes on. I mean, this is something that shook up the world, as the great Muhammad Ali would say. So we'll be watching tomorrow and Saturday The fact that they chose it on a weekend tells me that, they were preparing in case people would be protesting or rioting. That's the main reason why I think that date was selected on a weekend. Normally, they don't do stuff on a weekend. Court's not held there, but there have been exceptions made. They've had trials on Saturdays. I mean, George Zimmerman's trial was on. Never forget that. I was actually, Sean's being tuned out. Yeah, I was actually hanging out with my girl at the time. We were watching it as it transpired, and that was back in 2013. And I just sat and by it because I had a feeling he was going to walk. But
I don't think it'd be smart for them to pull something like that because the whole world saw this. So it's like, you don't want to pull games like this with this case. I mean, this is one where I don't think it would be smart to do this, but they don't really see a lot of people don't see the optics, and a lot of the politicians here don't see the optics. I mean, this optically would look really bad for the United States if Derrick Chauvin gets a light sentence. I mean, it would just embarrass the entire country and the whole world community. I mean, this would be a disaster of international proportions.
sure. Well, all we can do is see what we'll see.
Yeah, we'll just have to see what happens.
King VJ, man, thank you. Great show tonight. Smash up the likes and support them tonight. This has been great. Yes, it's great if you could please donate to the Cash App at the bottom, and also buy Sean's books, The Revenge of the Cyber Drivers. No problem. And John Haynes taking care of business. Sean's a little hungry. So one thing I did want to talk about on a light note, a couple of things, ladies and gentlemen. This is Black Music Month. So as it is Black Music Month, we're going to acknowledge these individuals, Gamble and Huff. Now, if you're not familiar with Gamble and Huff, then I don't know where you have been. If you have not heard of Gamble and Huff, certainly you have listened to their songs because, especially from the 70s, 60s, and 70s, they have a list of songs that they have written, including Cowboys to Girls, which was written by the Intruders. I'm Gonna Make You Love Me, which was a hit for Diana Ross and the Temptations. They co-founded Philadelphia International Records. They wrote what would be the theme song to the Soul Train in 1974, which was a huge hit with MFSB, Mother, Father, Sister, Brother. That was a group that they were part that was under the label, a group of instrumentalists that wrote a lot of songs. And they also wrote Billy Paul's Me and Mr. Jones, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. They wrote for them. Lou Rawls, including You'll Never Find, Lady Love. This is the Sound of Philadelphia. This was the theme song for the Soul Train, for the Soul Train TV show. And Don Cornelius actually refused to allow any reference of the song, which he says was a huge mistake on his part because he would have gotten a percentage of the royalties from that. And it was a million seller. So Gamble and Huff have been around for a while. These are the songs that they wrote with each other. And just so you know, here's a picture of Gamble and Huff. They're still around to this day. It's from their earlier days. Hit songwriters and producers. Some of the other artists that they've written for. They also work with the Jacksons. They wrote songs like This Place Hotel, Let Me Show You Where to Go. No, I'm sorry, not This Place Hotel. That was Michael who wrote that, but Let Me Show You Where to Go, and a few others. So it's funny I'm mentioning the Jacksons because tomorrow is the anniversary. It marks the 12th. Gosh, Michael Jackson has been gone for over 12 years, man. Just thinking about that, I just realized that. some of their songs. Sean, what are some of the songs you like from Gamble & Huff?
I have never heard of these guys.
Seriously?
No, I mean, the way I grew up, I didn't really listen to a lot of music that much. I watched a lot of TV, but I never really listened to too much music.
Well, this is a picture. Speaking of Michael Jackson, that's obviously a picture of the Jackson 5 there with Gamble and Huff shaking hands with Papa Joe. You can see Michael is right there with the big hat on his afro. That looks like Randy in the middle. That's Tito. That's Marlon, and then that's Jackie. That's Jackie. So yeah, Gamble and Huff, man. Yeah, you've never heard of these guys, but you've heard of the songs. If you don't know me by now, Me and Mrs. Jones, Clothes for Teddy. They wrote for Teddy Pendergrass.
Yeah, I've heard of the songs, but I just never heard of them because I'm not that deep into music. I'm more of a movie guy and a comic book guy and science fiction and fantasy guy.
But you certainly have heard of the songs.
Yeah, I've heard of their songs, and it sounds like they have a very extensive catalog of memorable songs.
Almost definitely, and they were essentially the answer to Motown. In the 70s. In the 70s, of course, you had they really dominated because with the Philadelphia sound, they were creating, along with Tom Bell and Linda Creed, those songwriters. They wrote a lot of hits, and they used strings and violins in their songs, which was R&B songs, which was unheard of back then. But for Teddy Pendergrass, they wrote "Close the Door" and "Turn Off the Lights."
A lot of classics.
"Show Me the Way to Go." That's actually one of my favorite Jackson songs. We're talking about remembering Michael Jackson, but sadly, tomorrow marks the. I guess I can do a double header of Black Music Month. I wanted to end it on a positive note, but these brothers are still alive. They are very active in the community. I believe Mr. Gamble actually moved back into the inner city so he could give back to Philadelphia. Leon Huff. I don't know exactly what Mr. Huff is doing, but dynamic songwriting team. But I guess we can talk about it, Sean, about Michael Jackson's, since it is Black Music Month. McFadden and Whitehead wrote a lot of songs with them. Yeah, Ain't No Stopping Us Now.
Yeah.
That was Ain't No Stopping Us Now. We found the groove. Yeah, that was under Sigma Sound Studios. That was in Philadelphia. What do you remember, obviously, about the death of Michael Jackson, where you were?
I remember being completely shocked by it. I think it was a day that it was something I never expected to happen because Michael was only 50 years old. I thought he had another good 20, 30 years. I thought we would be seeing him go on for years, but it was just a major shock that day. I mean, I remember just being floored for the first time because Michael was an icon of my generation. I mean, I remember with Thriller and Bad. I mean, those were songs at elementary, high school. And I saw that later part of his career. I mean, that music was a major part of my life. So it was a major shock to me to hear that he had passed away because I heard he was getting ready to go on tour. He was getting ready to turn things around in his life, and then all of a sudden he was gone. And that was the whole shocking thing about the passing of Michael Jackson, was that you never expected to hear an icon and a legend for many generations to just pass away like that.
Yeah, 45 years in the business. That's his actual death certificate. I remember where I was when that happened. I was actually at home. I was off that day. It was a Thursday. Just like today, I was off from work. I was working at Walgreens at the time. I was a cashier. And I had a day, I was going to work in the morning. And I saw, while I was online, I didn't turn the TV on or anything like that. Facebook and stuff was just really starting to pick up, and someone had put online on their timeline that they heard Michael Jackson died. Well, I thought it was just another internet rumor, so I didn't pay any attention to it. I just was watching movies all day, doing my own thing, right? So my mom came home from work. She came home from work about that evening. She, went in the back, sat down on the bathtub, and she said, "Gavin, I got something to tell you. Some bad news." I said, "What bad news?" She said, "Michael Jackson's dead. Michael Jackson died." I was like, "Mom, what are you talking about?" They said he had a heart attack. So I ran in the living room, and put the TV on CNN, and sure enough, you saw all the helicopters outside Ronald Reagan Medical Center, UCLA. You saw the red ticker at the bottom. Usually, when it's in red, that means something bad has happened. So breaking news, and everything 24/7 was Michael Jackson dead at 50. Tributes pouring in all around the world. So that was a time we started listening to. I started playing all the music. I tried to go on MTV. I put on MTV. MTV had tributes, and MTV shut down their entire programming and played Michael Jackson 24/7 with his music videos. Let me say something positive that I know he was part of my childhood as well. A man that claimed he never had a childhood. I think it's safe to say that he made the childhood of everybody around the world. Black, white, yellow, whatever you were. Whenever that man came on television, you knew you were going to see something magical take place. So my earliest memories of Michael Jackson actually was the Alvin and the Chipmunks. Alvin was doing a performance with Michael from the Billie Jean performance at the Motown 25th anniversary, and he danced on stage with him. And I remember that cartoon, and that stuck in my head. That's like the first image I remember of Michael Jackson, doing the quipping the moonwalk and stuff. Then there was, of course, the Moonwalker movie that he did in '88. You remember that one?
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, that was big back then. A lot of people, I remember that. I enjoyed it. When Michael did Moonwalker, he did the Leave Me Alone video that was in there. I got freaked out by him dancing with the Elephant Man. I was only like 3 when that came on. I remember that. But, some of the most positive things he did obviously was getting MTV back to doing music, because MTV was a struggling network,
Yeah.
when it first got started, and he put MTV on the map when they wouldn't allow blacks on MTV Music Television. That was unheard of at that time. And MTV's programming as of late, VH1, the same thing. It was and BT was all trash.
Yeah.
When he died, they went back to the format. They were gonna play music.
Yeah, because MTV had walked away from music in '92 with Bill Clinton, and they were trying to get Bill Clinton elected, and then they just went and did stuff like The Real World, and the only good thing to come out of that era was Daria. The rest of it and was just absolute garbage. I mean, some people will say Beavis and Butthead was something, but
I remember Beavis and Butthead.
But they used to be, MTV was all music videos, and if it wasn't for Michael Jackson, they would be forgotten, because he put them on the map and made them into a network people wanted to watch. I mean, I remember back then it was just like these little music video shows, but MTV really didn't start getting off the ground until Michael Jackson showed up, and they started playing his videos in rotation.
Yeah. Well, it was Walter Yetnikoff, who was the head of CBS at that time, who threatened MTV, basically that he was going to pull every artist that he had in his catalog out of MTV if he didn't play Michael Jackson's Billie Jean, because we could not stand your apartheid tactics. They did not allow blacks on that channel. They were being
Yeah. It was a rock music thing, but the whole thing wasn't for the Michael Jackson's pop, the R&B, and the hip hop. MTV would have died.
Right. Well, really, MTV. Well, here's the thing. What's funny about that is that you say it had to be rock, but black people are the ones that invented rock and roll. Chuck Berry, Fats Domino, Little Richard, Muddy Walters. Those guys were the idols of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. The Rolling Stones are named after Muddy Walters' album. You know, Michael was essentially, I called him, yeah, I remember people were talking about they committed suicide when Mike died. People were breaking down crying, depressed over it. Prince actually shut down his rehearsals, according to Tavis Smiley. He was doing some tours, and he shut them down for, I think, that week, or at least for that, I know for at least that day. Told everybody to go home.
Yeah, it was devastating. I mean, it was one of those things that just...
And he opened the door for Prince too, because when Michael does Billie Jean, that opens the door for Prince to bring in Controversy and Little Red Corvette.
Yeah.
And, you know, Purple Rain. So you saw out of that Billie Jean performance, out of him bringing in Billie Jean, that he opened the door and planted seeds for other people. You know, the King of Rock video that Runs DMC has, where they're stepping on Michael's glove in the Smithsonian. Had it not been for Michael, they wouldn't even be on MTV. That's the funny thing about it.
Yep. I mean, he opened the door for so many different people and so many different styles of music. I mean, Michael had a major impact. If you look at it through the 80s, I mean, he really just transformed music.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. All right. If you like what you're seeing, ladies and gentlemen, please hit that like, share, and subscribe. Donate to the Cash App if you loved what we did tonight. Also, I need you to please support my brother, Shawn James, who has written books such as The Man Crisis, but also go buy his latest books, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess and John Haynes Taking Care of Business, available on Amazon. Guys, I also just want to leave you on a note too, something positive. We have our website up and running, and we will soon be able to take orders. That is right. Nani's Creole Seasoning Blends. Nani's is up, Nani'sCreoleBlends.com. I'm just going to share a preview of the website so you guys can take a look right now.
Looks really nice. Very well done.
Yes, yes, yes. We're in the process of trying to get our seasoning into stores as we speak. So it's just taking a little, we're working on that, but this is something we've been planning for 3 years. It doesn't take much, ladies and gentlemen, to start a business. You can start it right from home. That's how the great started. So try it on chicken, meat, or fish. Nani's goes great with every dish. So you guys check that out, Nani'sCreoleBlends.com, Nani'sCreoleBlends.com. And, you know, Shawn, thank you for being here again. Lady Ruler, I just want to acknowledge, I haven't seen Harlem Brown before, but I know I think you've been on before, but yes, baby, thank you. I see you're a Michael Jackson fan. Shout out to Ruth Brooks. Let me say something else too about Michael real quick. Mike was also an astute businessman by owning that catalog. And I call him Sam Cooke 2.0 because he did stuff that Sam wasn't allowed to do, which is own white music.
Yeah.
Sam Cooke tried to buy and own his own music and thought he controlled it, but we know what happened to him. He's no longer here, and as is Michael. Very interesting. So,
yeah, whenever a black person tries to build wealth, it seems like that's when they run into issues with white people. As long as you're rich and buying crap, they have no problem. But when you start talking about building intergenerational wealth, then they have problems with you. Like when I heard about Professor Black Truth, he talked about the Nina Simone estate, and that was a sad story to hear. If that's what happened. I mean, it said that Kamala Harris took away Nina Simone's estate. So again, it's always about the wealth that they have an issue with. If you're rich and blowing money and buying mansions and making it rain, they have no problem with you. But when you start talking about passing money on to the next generation, that's when people have problems with you.
I did want to talk about that. I didn't want to talk about it in a live stream because I didn't want to keep you too long, but I was thinking of doing a video on that. But that thing with Nina Simone's granddaughter, yeah, she came at Kamala Harris. Did you see that?
Yeah, I heard Professor Black Truth's whole video on it, and that's disgusting. I mean, that everything that she took away, everything that meant that was supposed to be hers, and that's completely egregious to take that from a daughter that she could go out here and be able to. She can't even profit from her own mother's music or profit from any of the things that her mother owns.
Yeah. Nina Simone is the one who's saying "young, gifted, and black," right?
I wouldn't know, but
she did sing that. To be young, gifted, and black, and that's a fact. Yeah.
Because that was sad to hear. I mean, because the thing is that you have to have something that you pass on to the next generation, and black wealth is something we need to really appreciate and value.
Yeah, she wrote that in memory of Lorraine Hansberry, who was the creator of the play A Raisin in the Sun. Although Lorraine Hansberry says that she wrote about lesbianism and the oppression of homosexuality. I don't know if you would agree with that.
Not a fan of that part, but if you work for something, you should be able to pass it to your children.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Well, that was interesting to see her go in on that. But Shawn, I thank y'all for thank you for being here, brother. As always, we'll see you in the next one. Is there anything you want to plug in right quick?
No, you've plugged all my books and throughout the show. That's all I have to say. I mean, really, I have other titles on Amazon.com like Eternal Night and The Man Crisis. So if you want to pick those books up on Amazon.com, you can pick those books up as well. And that's all I really have to say for tonight's show. I just want to thank you for having me on the show, and I hope we can do it again soon.
All right, much love, everybody. This has been another edition of Gavin Richard Presents here on YouTube channel GBoo2786 on Gavin Richard. If you're watching there, if you're watching via Facebook, or GavinRich2786 on Periscope. Apparently, I have no viewers there. I had over 33 viewers that they came in here, but who knows? YouTube scrubs and changes things and messes with the analytics. I could have had 200 people in here for all I knew watching. At any rate, I thank you all for tuning in. There is no super chat as of now. I'm not at 1,000 subscribers, but I need you all to please, if you are not subscribed, subscribe to this channel. Please donate to the Cash Apps. Donate to the Cash App. Gavin Richard Esquire. Gavin Richard Esquire. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. What's up, Derrick Bailey? I see you. Brother, I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on again. And this has been another edition of Gavin Richard Presents. I'll holla. Peace. Good night, everyone.
Good night.